Tristan, first of all, your reaction to that extraordinary interview I just finished with your brother.
I think that was one of the best interviews ever conducted with Andrew. I don't know how hard you're going to go on me, so perhaps I'm making a mistake saying this. I like how you challenge your guests. I like how you seem to have a very impartial opinion on people. You don't judge things one way or another before you go into the interviews. And I think that made the interview with Andrew very interesting.
Tristan setting himself up to some hard questions.
He's ready for it.
He dresses well, man.
Yeah, he
always
really
dresses sick
well.
wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited to see the public response.
I mean, like I said to him, I'm not here to convict you or otherwise. I don't know if you're guilty or not of the charges laid against you. We'll establish that in a trial or otherwise. I mean, it may not even go to trial.
No, it might not.
I mean, it seems to me there's been an interesting relaxing of restrictions against you and your brother, really, from the time you were put in prison at the start of the year. What do you read into that?
Well, if you understand how the Romanian justice system works, again, I have to be very careful what I say. The pressure to put us in jail comes from not organizations. There are many great people who work at organizations like Tate, which is the organization investigating us, but it comes from individual prosecutors who I am very much a trophy for, I would say. So the absolute obsession with putting me in jail comes from these people, but these people have nothing to do with judges, you see. At the end of the day, if you investigate me for a year and a half, throw me in jail, drag my name through the mud, eventually you're going to have to come up with a file of evidence and show it to a judge. So the people who keep letting me go are the people who've seen that file of evidence and don't have a motivation to keep me in jail.
It's true, because it's a very good point he's saying. prosecutors, their job is to get people into courts. And imagine how much it is a big deal to get the Tates behind bars. In their head, that's like a big bounty. There's such a big reward for them to do their job at that level, to get the Tates in front of a court. But like you said, when it goes to the judges, they're the ones that say yes or no, looking at the paperwork fairly, and they've been kind of let go every single time.
Is it due to lack of evidence?
Lack of evidence. They can't put you in prison unless there's actual evidence. But because the prosecution are so hungry to get them in front of the courts, because they have a feeling that, what's happened has happened, and it's in their eyes they think it's true, they're doing everything in their ability to get them, and they have a desire and hunger to go to their bosses and say, look, we got the Tates in front, we got enough to get them into court. It's a job, it's a 9 to 5, and whether it's right or wrong, they don't give a fuck. They're getting paid, and they have targets. They got targets to hit, and getting the Tates in front of the judges, that's a big win for them. So it's quite messed up if you deep it.
So that's it broken down as simply as I can.
In the BBC report of the prosecution files, they quote you as saying about the women who worked on your webcam business, I'm going to slave these bitches. I'm going to make them work even more hours and hours and hours. I work these bitches like slaves. Slave work, minimum 10 or 12 hours.
That is not true at all. So
you never said that?
No.
Or you said it sarcastically?
No, I didn't say it sarcastically at all. That is about my ex-girlfriend cleaning my house. So what you have to understand is when you go through a man's phone, you have 4 years and hundreds of thousands, millions of messages to everyone he's ever spoken to. Now this is about human trafficking, my accusation. So anyone coerced, anyone forced, anyone tied up, anyone kidnapped, anyone sold, anyone moved, none of that is in any of my WhatsApp conversations. But Tate and the prosecutor essentially can eliminate parts of the conversation that he says are not relevant. Now, if you look at the timings between the messages on all of these conversations that look very bad, he's deleting various things, a lot of LOLs and a lot of ha-has, because believe me, if you were to read mine and my brother's conversations, even right now, you could probably accuse me of conspiracy to commit murder because of the stupid things that we talk about. I was talking about...
Conspiracy to commit murder?
I mean, Andrew, I'm going to kill you when I get home. Things like this, which can be used in a very negative...
Oh, conspiracy to commit murder? Am I onto something?
I'm onto something. Shall I go to the prosecutors now?
Piers, man.
Trying to get a little cheeky bonus over there.
Like you probably haven't said 10 times worse things behind closed doors.
It's way.
But you accept you've used language about women?
Loads. I've used worse language. But
how do you feel about that? Now it's all been laid bare.
Well, it's very unfortunate that I think this conversation is 3 years old. I think our house was messy after a party, and I was saying, oh yeah, she's my slave. Don't worry, I'll get her working.
Do you regret using language like that?
No, I don't, because...
Really?
Well, last week, my daughter's mother sent me a photo of her drawing on the wall with crayons. And I said, ha ha ha, I'm going to kill her when I get home. Now, you could delete the ha 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 because you feel that's irrelevant because you're the prosecutor, and you can arrest me and all my friends and throw me in jail for conspiracy to commit the murder of children. You could do that if you wish. But that's not the way I meant it.
No, but I'd ask a different question.
Yes.
I would say when your daughter grows up,
yes,
how would you like it if another man spoke about your daughter by saying, I'm going to slave the bitch, I'm going to make her work even more hours and hours, I work this bitch like a slave. If someone said that and you saw it actually in a message they sent about your daughter, how would you feel?
Well, that's not the best message to have sent, and there's lots of locker
so you regret
room talk.
Piers loves putting words in people's mouths. That's his specialty.
I regret that.
You either regret it or you don't.
No, I don't. I regret that it became public because, the way men speak to each other, if I were to go through all of your WhatsApp messages, I don't know what I'd find. And I also
wouldn't mind if a man spoke that way about your daughter when she's older, you wouldn't mind? Or you would mind?
Of course I would mind, but it depends on the context of the relationship.
Do you think it's disrespectful?
The girl I was talking about cleaning my house at the time, I'm no longer with her. And also, this conversation is not about anyone who's listed as a victim in the file, which is a very important distinction to make. The girl I was talking about, I was very in love with at the time. I had a very great relationship with at the time. If you say to your girlfriend, oh, come here, I'm going to spank you. That's not, if you're her co-worker or you're a man who's stalking her, it's a very different context to if you're her boyfriend.
The problem is that in the context of what you've been accused of...
Yes, the prosecutor can make it look bad.
This looks damning.
Of course, but what he doesn't do is he doesn't show the whole conversations to any judge. That is a carefully manipulated and edited and actually constructed conversation, as all of the conversations are.
This whole lover boy thing, right? The suggestion is that you and Andrew, basically, you're two good-looking, fast-talking, smart guys, right? And you've have plenty of money and you've enjoyed yourselves, fine.
Yes.
And that you've managed to, deliberately or otherwise, but the suggestion is deliberately, persuade a lot of women to fall in love with you very quickly, and then you use that relationship and how they feel about you to then guide them towards making money from webcams.
Well, that's
similar to what the Tinder swindler did, but he was actually guilty of it, found guilty. The difference with this is that they had those girls working with them, and the girls were in
happy
it.
About
they
it
were
as well.
They were working.
Yeah.
It's like they were offered a job. They gave them an opportunity, and they took it.
Yeah.
The Tinder swindler, he fully made girls fall in love with him, and got them to take out credit cards.
My enemies are after me.
Make them send him money, cash money, and then just run away with the money, basically.
Yeah.
With these lot, it's a job opportunity. They didn't have to say yes, and they all made a lot of money from it, and everyone's happy.
Interesting. Of the 7 women that you've listed, none of which we can name, do you know how many of them ever worked at my old webcamming business I had many years ago? Of the 7 victims listed, how many of them were in any way related to any of the activities I did when I ran a webcam studio? The answer, Piers, you'd be surprised to know, is 0. People on the internet, I call them Twitter detectives, not the police. Not DCOT, not even this over-ambitious prosecutor, because there are webcam studios all over the city, has tried to make any criminal complaint about that small business that me and Andrew, as he said, dipped our toe in. I was mainly running it, to be fair, all those years ago. None of these people who are alleged victims today have anything to do with the webcam studio. But if you watch clips on Twitter, when we speak as a 24-year-old, vulgarly, oh yeah, I'm pimping because I'm in the club with a bunch of girls. When we speak that way, it's easy to say, oh look, he's admitted, he's confessed to his crimes. The old webcam studio and the current investigation have 0 strings in between them. So the question in and of itself doesn't make sense, if you understand that.
People online are quick to make their own judgment. Like when these all got arrested, like you said, Twitter detectives and Instagram detectives, everyone's just quick to try to say their piece on it, but they're not professionals. Like, let the professionals do their job. Obviously, you can have an opinion.
Hence why the judge let them go.
Yeah, they got let go in the end. It's mad.
You could face further time in jail if you're convicted of these offences. A long time in jail. You were in jail earlier this year. What was that experience like for you?
Jail was, when you're going through something really difficult, and it's almost unbearable, whether it be a difficult gym session or, a major setback, and you come out after it's finished. And the moment it ends, you're like, yeah, I'm glad that happened. Jail was hell every single day. But the moment we got that phone call saying a judge who's now seen the evidence that they've allegedly raised against you has decided to release you, I was very happy for the experience. I'm very happy I spent 3 months living in those conditions.
What did you find out about yourself?
I didn't find out anything new. I feel like it was my opportunity to show to myself and to my brother and to the world that I am the man who I say I am. I always preach being mentally strong, physically strong. I put on this tough guy persona, but I don't think it's a tough guy persona, because if I can survive 3 months in a Romanian prison without incident, without tears, without being upset.
You didn't shed any tears?
I did not in jail.
Did you know that Andrew had?
I believe that Andrew's tears were tears of anger. He was more angry than I was. Whereas me and Andrew are very balanced. We have a very balanced relationship. We keep each other in check. When he's angry, I calm him down. When I'm angry, he calms me down. I believe Andrew was a lot angrier at the situation. Andrew knew a lot less about the situation. I can at least read some Romanian. I was trying to make sense of it all. He was sitting there in pure frustration.
But they're serious criminal charges.
Well, they're serious criminal charges. But what I would say to you is, what is the serious criminal evidence? So again, this is from the...
Again, like he said, regardless of how serious it is, if there's no evidence and they're convicted, it means nothing, because they've not been convicted for it. Unless they're convicted and it's been proven, that's a different story. But you can have someone, in front of a court for conspiracy of murder, but if they're not convicted and if it genuinely didn't happen and it wasn't them, regardless of how serious the charge is, they didn't do it. Like, they shouldn't even be in front of the court. Do you know what I mean? So it's just mad.
I'm going to work this for hours. It's about a girl cleaning my house, by the way. So this is the big bombshell. The BBC, because I don't know how they got the indictment, but the indictment should be private. I'd love to give you a copy. I really would. But the criminal indictment isn't what the prosecutor says I've done. It's the evidence against me. So if the BBC have read their grubby little fingers through all of this evidence and all the files, and the worst thing they have to come at me with is, Tristan, you said this girl's your slave. I've said that. I've said worse things.
Have you ever coerced women?
No, I've never coerced anybody into doing anything they don't like.
Do you accept them, as I said to Andrew, that some of the language, even in the things he tweets now, suggests that his idea of how women should be treated is that they effectively are a form of slave to a man?
Piers, I really like you, and I sometimes feel you fall for Andrew's little traps, and it's really wonderful to watch, because it's not the things he says. It's the way he says them, and the way he says them can get people very riled up. When I was sitting listening to your interview about women shouldn't work and be taken care of, etc., it actually took me back about 12 or 13 years to an interview I saw, I can't remember, I think it was on ITV, with the late Christopher Hitchens. You probably knew him.
I did.
I did not know Christopher Hitchens. I think he died way before I became relevant. But he was sitting there with this female journalist, and he's saying, his exact words were, I don't want Mrs. Hitchens to be coarsened in the labor market. Why would I want my women coarsened in the labor market? No, if she's with me, she can work if she wants, but she doesn't have to. Now, he was not labeled the world's biggest misogynist. He was actually hailed as an intellectual this time. I read all of his books. I used to be a big fan of his. But he said exactly the same thing Andrew said. Exactly the same thing, with different intonations and different tones. And you probably knew him. You didn't attack him back then for saying that, did you? But Andrew,
well, I'm not here to judge.
He can get people...
He stuck it on him. What do you think of that? Like, do you think it's a bad thing for a man to say, my wife doesn't need to work, or I don't want my wife working a 9 to 5 unless she chooses to? But do you think the man's taking charge of her life by saying that?
I think he's giving her an option.
I think an opportunity, if anything.
Yeah, I think obviously the whole reason of the feminism movement is to allow women to go out and work, vote, have other opportunities rather than just being home-based. But for a man to say, my wife doesn't need to work, how many women would want to hear that for their husbands to say? Let's be honest.
If I said that to you,
I'll be like, okay.
over the moon.
All right.
No, but she doesn't have to work. It's a choice.
I don't think that's being controlled. If it's a case where I don't want my wife to work, she needs to stay at home.
She has no choice.
Then that's controlling.
Yeah.
But something along the lines, my wife doesn't need to work.
If she wants a little side job out of choice.
If she wants a part-time job, that's up to her.
To her.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Good. It's good like that. Yeah.
Christopher Hitchens is no longer with us, sadly. He was a brilliant man in many ways. I disagree with him about many things, but he's not why I'm here, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
It just seems to me that the rhetoric, particularly by Andrew, but also some of the stuff they found with you, the way that you talk about women may be part of the problem you found yourselves in here. And from Andrew's recent tweeting, there's no sign to me that he is is aware or self-aware of quite how some of this stuff comes over.
I understand.
And that maybe that has been part of the problem here with you guys.
Well, again, when you look at Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate and you try to label them misogynists, you gender the argument. If I were accused of anything else and they were to read the conversations, which they did read, by the way, between me and my friends, the insults we give each other, the threats we make to each other.
Do you think a woman's place is at home serving her man?
No. I believe my woman's place is at home serving her family. I serve my family.
But she shouldn't go to work.
She wouldn't have to if
But
she didn't want to. If I wanted her to and she wanted to and we agreed as a family.
If you wanted her to.
If we agreed as a family.
What if you don't want her to but she does?
Well, in the same way that if I was working a normal job and I got a promotion, that would mean that I move out of the city or we move as a family, we'd sit there and discuss it as a family. I don't believe that there's one rule for every single family. I don't see...
Yeah, but Andrew does.
I don't see in the future my woman working, no. Because I think I could take care of my woman and I could take care of my family.
You wouldn't be... I don't think you'd be with...
He just keeps interrupting,
You know, he's
trying to put words in his mouth.
He's trying to like trigger something that can go viral. That's what Piers is good at. He tries to trigger stuff. And he's like, let me spice this conversation up and starts throwing bullshit. But I don't think there's anything wrong with what Tristan said here, do you?
No, I don't find nothing wrong at all.
Yeah.
With a woman who wanted to work, right?
I've been with women who worked.
And how did that go?
Wonderfully. I've had some absolutely wonderful relationships.
Well, doesn't that prove the point that this whole idea a woman has to stay at home and serve her man is actually a lot of cobblers?
Again, I don't think serve her man was something Andrew specifically said. I would phrase
Well, he did. I mean, that's why I read that whole tweet.
Well, Andrew's not me and I'm not Andrew. What I would say is a woman serves her family.
Are you different in your outlook on that?
Me and Andrew are very different. Me and Andrew are very different people.
Rolling Stone, in a profile, said this about
Rolling Stone.
Their relationship dynamic is very odd. It's like Tristan is held captive by Andrew and believes or follows everything Andrew says or does.
God.
I don't believe or follow a lot of things that Andrew says or does.
He's trying to trigger Tristan Tate. He's proper trying to trigger him. Fuck it up.
I get asked every single day to counter. E.J. Dickinson is this woman's name. I could tell you some horrible stories about the people who she's harassed and bothered, this Rolling Stone woman. The things Andrew says and does, I mean, I get asked...
What don't you like about his views?
Well, the major one, when people say, oh, Tristan, now that you've converted to Islam, I'm like, I haven't converted to Islam. Who says I converted to Islam? No, I'm an Orthodox Christian and I have not converted to Islam.
What do you think of his conversion?
I think that it's not my place to even comment on it. Now, some of the greatest religious discussions I have had have been with Andrew since his reversion, since him reading the Quran, most of it, of which he covered in prison. And we sit there and discuss these various ideas, but I believe that individual religious conviction is exactly that, it's individual. And I don't believe, whether I'm his brother, whether I'm his son, mother, uncle, I have no place to tell him what his religious conviction should be.
I do like that. Although Andrew's the older brother and he's reverted to Islam, Tristan hasn't felt pressured that he needs to do the same, and like a lot of people assuming that he's actually reverted as well. But I like that they both stand on their own beliefs, whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity. It's not like forced. It's something they wanted to do or they believe in. I respect that.
I really like their relationship as a brother relationship as well. They're really supportive of each other, and even the way Tristan is talking of Andrew, and you can tell Piers is trying to...
He's trying to trigger an argument between them.
He's trying to spark something. Yeah. But
they got each
it's
other's
just not
backs.
working, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Says he has no business to tell me mine. So I'm happy for him because he's become a happier and better person.
Are you rivals?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But in the best and most healthy way. I can't watch him train in the gym for an hour in the morning and then not train for an hour myself. I can't sit there drinking and relaxing and partying while he's on his laptop working.
Do you ever fight?
No, never. We never argued.
You never physically fight?
Well, we used to physically fight all the time. We're both professional athletes, so we used to beat each other up in the ring for sparring.
Who would win?
Oh, Andrew would win. I was good. I was the European champion at my peak, but Andrew was built for Andrew's. I mean, see my broken nose? It leans this way. First time it was broken was by him, and a week after that, and I had it broken twice subsequently in kickboxing matches. But yeah, we are rivals in the way that we inspire each other to work better and to be better, but not rivals in any way that his success would upset me or my success would upset him.
When you were in jail together,
yes.
So for a period of that 3 months, you were actually in the same cell.
Indeed, for about half of it.
What did you talk about when it's just you and him, and you're thinking we may never get out of it?
Lots of things: books, religion, the case, obviously, explaining, trying to understand.
When you're in a cockroach-infested tiny cell together,
yes,
you've gone from being the top G and his brother, with your Bugattis, your cigars,
top G and top T,
the lifestyle, the women, and so on, to literally nothing in a very degrading environment that you find yourself in, and you've got no idea how this plays out or how it ends, or even if you get out. I mean, that's a big moment.
Yeah, I guess it is a big moment, but I always knew that we were going to be okay. You know, even when I was separate from him, I wasn't worried that he was banging his head against the wall or self-harming or doing anything stupid. Again, he wasn't worried about me. We obviously weren't worried that the other brother, and I know you can't share in this conviction, I know he's not a criminal. I know he has no skeletons in his closet and no criminal past. He knows exactly the same about me. So we were very relaxed. I guess in jail I was more relaxed than I am now, because in prison I assumed that the prosecutor, whose job by the Romanian constitution, by the way, he's not a district attorney like in the United States where he is told he has to argue that you're guilty and that's it. The prosecutor's job actually here is to discern the truth of the situation. So I was sitting in jail relatively relaxing. Well, this is going to end.
So in Romania, if I got that right, their job is to argue that you're guilty. So the prosecutor will go to the judges and argue why Tristan Tate should be locked up and why. Obviously, it's a judge's decision, but their job is to argue that that person is guilty.
Isn't what prosecutors do anyway?
I don't know. I'm guessing no, but he just said the other one, the other type of prosecutor. I don't know if it was US or Romania. I think he said the US do this. Their job is to take the truth and argue the truth of the situation, but the other one is argue why that person is guilty. So their job goal is actually quite different, because the truth is whether if that person's guilty or not, the truth will tell it. But there's no truth. If the person's innocent, the other person just argue why he's guilty. It's different.
Any day now. I mean, human trafficking, this is stupid. It's not going to happen. Like, we're not going to sentence me to jail for this. It was only when I got out that I learned the true motivations behind this that made me actually more worried than I was in jail. So in jail, I was relatively relaxed. Trained every day, ate their horrible food, did my push-ups.
Yeah.
It was all right. Mental break, no electronics.
Did your mother, was she able to come and see you or not?
No. No, in fact...
Could you speak to her?
For some reason, and I cannot tell you why, I was banned from visitors. That includes my daughter, the mother of my daughter. That includes any friends.
Was Andrew as well?
I don't believe so, but no one tried to visit him. Maybe they were rejected at the prison gate. I don't know, but I was, at one point, it's on file, it's on paperwork, at one point I was banned from receiving visitors.
Could you make
calls? Why is that?
Yeah, there was some phone time, but I didn't make a single call while I was in prison. I spent 3 months without speaking to anybody.
Other than Andrew?
No, only my lawyer, actually. Only my lawyer.
His family must have been so worried about him, and he didn't even speak to them for 3 months. It's a long time. It's a quarter of a year.
That's a very long time.
And did you get into similar physical threatening situations that he did?
No. I mean, Andrew had like a few Mexican standoffs, let's say. But I think that jail is a world of realities. And, you know, lots of tough guys, whether they be Romanian or British or American, nowadays, the tough guy move is, you've offended me, I'm going to use my phone. I'm going to call the boys, and the boys are going to come beat you up. I think that is the standard operating procedure in lots of the world. I mean, as Andrew said, I come from a council state. I understand this very well. When you walk into a prison cell, that's not the reality. The reality is, if I start a fight with this guy, it may be 10 to 15 minutes before anyone shows up. And I'm a 6'4", 17.5 stone former kickboxer. Everyone knows me. Everyone knows I'm a professional athlete. So I actually didn't have any problems at all. I would say that everyone was very kind and very respectful.
Two kickboxing brothers. One's a European champion at his peak, and the other one's a world champion at his peak for kickboxing. They're both over 6 foot. They're big guys. I doubt people will challenge them like that, especially when Andrew and Tristan are that close as brothers. They got each other's back. That's asking for trouble if you're trying to fight that.
To me. Not just because they were intimidated by me, no, absolutely not, because there were some guys in there who I should have been intimidated by. But I give respect, and I think I receive it back, and I did okay in that environment. People
often say, and it's certainly true from people I've interviewed over the years, that you're a product of your environment, particularly of your parents.
Yes.
In a November 2011 Facebook post, your father, Emery, wrote that the eternal problem of the alpha male was protecting his flock of women. He said, the times I struck a woman, brackets, in passion, I never left a mark, no trace, hyper control, super control of a human animal. They love me still.
I've never heard that before in my life.
Dads.
I'm smiling, man, because I can imagine his voice saying it.
You can.
I can imagine his voice saying it. The only times I've struck a woman, in brackets, in passion. Have you ever struck a woman in passion, Piers?
No.
You haven't?
No.
Not a little spank?
Well,
Not once?
Let's keep this above board. But
Let's keep this above board. When you just asked him that and it backfired. There's a meme actually of him in Hello Britain or whatever show he was doing that he got fired from. And
Great Britain.
There's the talk show, and he was talking about something that one of the women was like, oh, like you should never lay your hands on a woman or something like that. And he was like, what? Not even like sexually or passionately or something like that. She's like, no. He's like, oh, you haven't lived then. So that what he was doing there is because he remembers that. So he was trying to trigger it, and look, he's like, let's keep it above board, dickhead.
I want to, Piers, but I'm saying, like, I understand how you're trying to phrase this.
No, I don't
and
understand.
Again, my father is dead and can't
no,
defend himself.
I'm not trying to phrase it in any way. I'm just curious what you think he meant by that.
I honestly don't know. I mean, keep in mind, my father died when I was 27, and that post was written a long time ago. I've never heard it before. I've never seen it before.
But what kind of father was he in terms of the values he instilled in you and Andrew?
Oh, he was a wonderful man, and he was a very protective man over his family and the people he cared about. I mean, they got divorced many, many years ago, but even with his dying breath, he would have jumped in to fight 10 men to defend my mother and her honor. That's the kind of guy he was, super protective and super, involved in everyone he loves life, even if he was far away. The phone calls were constant, the emails were constant, and he held us very accountable as young men.
Andrew tweeted last year, my dad was a chess genius CIA operative. My mother was a dinner lady. They had nothing in common. Dad said she fed you boys healthy meals every day, cleaned the house, and was largely quiet. I loved her very much. That's literally all men want.
Are you asking if that's an accurate description of my parents' relationship?
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. But my mother was a wonderful mother. See, I don't think.
But they split up.
Of course they did. But that doesn't. Well,
so when he says
just because they split up doesn't mean they're not wonderful. They just decided, to be apart for whatever reason.
Literally all men want.
They split up way before I was old enough to understand marriage or sexual or male or female dynamics. By the way, so I can't even comment on their marriage. What I can comment on is how they were as parents. And what I will say is, I don't look back on my childhood raised in a council estate. On state benefits, I was free school lunches. I don't look back on that and think, oh, my mother was a terrible mother because we didn't have any money. Because I don't think it was my mother's job to, I guess, provide as much as my father was doing his best from the United States. But I will look back and say my mother was an absolutely wonderful mother. I had 3 square meals a day. She knew how to manage her finances, didn't smoke, didn't go out with her friends, made sure my clothes were always washed, knew how to mend things. She is.
How does she feel about the fact that both her boys are in this serious legal jeopardy?
Well, you have to understand, she's known us our entire lives, and you haven't. When I was 15, 16, 18, all my friends were selling drugs and breaking into cars. I was down at the kickboxing gym every single day. I would get into the kickboxing ring for 50 pounds after 8 weeks training, just because I found...
Imagine that, getting paid 50 pounds to fight at kickboxing. That is tough, getting your face pounded in for 50
Just
quid.
for 50 pounds.
Yeah, that's how it was back then.
Harmony in the discipline that sport gave me. I think kickboxing is massively, largely responsible for keeping me from ever doing anything illegal. Never tried a drug in my life. Never broken a law in my life.
Never broken any law?
Speeding.
Right.
We're talking, I'm talking about serious crimes.
Never broke any law,
And my mother's
sure?
known that even at
He sounds like the prosecutor as well.
No, he is a bloody
He
prosecutor
might as well
himself.
be.
my most desperate and my most poor, I would come home to her and sleep on her couch for 6 months, as opposed to do anything illegal and try to find an honest, good way of, legal way at least, of making money. So the idea...
Is she worried about you, the situation you're in?
Well, she's worried about the situation, but she has no doubt in her mind that I haven't done any heinous things against women, especially for money, because it doesn't make sense that after going through what I've gone through and avoiding any legal problems, suddenly I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I decide that's the time to start trafficking.
When you look at this whole setup of the war room and the generals and I think Andrew said 4,000 people are members now.
Yes.
When I saw the web chat logs and so on, he says a lot of that isn't true. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see whether that's verified or not. But a lot of the language that's used seems to be that people are being encouraged to spend all this money to join a kind of cult where they are encouraged to treat women as second-class citizens.
Absolutely not
Hustle
true.
University?
I
But
don't.
that's what
Yeah, so he's got the War Room and Hustlers University, and they're quite similar, but so he's questioning, saying it's a cult. That's quite messy. I'm pretty sure a woman can join. You know, if there was a woman that was ambitious enough and, you know, she's self-motivated and wants to make her own money, she could sign up to their services. It's not a men's only. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I'm pretty sure it's not men's only. Feel free. I think it's £50 a month. You know, apparently it's really good for you. It's really worth the money. So
yes, I'm gonna become a millionaire.
Go for it.
comes over in these
I believe the screenshots you've seen are fake. One, absolutely. Two, I would say I'm a member of the War Room. The War Room has nothing to do with me. I'm just a War Room member like everybody else. And I find lots of great help within the War Room, whenever I want to do business with somebody, if I want to transfer money to certain countries, if I want to, you know, find somebody who has talents that I don't, to recruit people, to find people to work for me.
I think with the War Room, guys, you probably know more than me. Yeah, I think it's invite only. And I think it's like an entrance fee of like, I don't know, $7,000 or $10,000 just to get in. But then it's basically a lot of everyone that's in the War Room is meant to be like quite well off and quite advanced. And it's just imagine a chat room full of these entrepreneurs and millionaires, or six figures at least at minimum. And you just can message in the chat anytime.
Wow.
And like if you've got business ideas, cryptos, there's something to do with like trading, like anything. It's just this chat with all these millionaires and you're part of that. And need advice, and everyone's in this together, and it's just a bunch of millionaires, just, you know, like a WhatsApp group, for example.
Interesting.
And they do meetings in person here and there, like exclusive meetings, and it's basically getting in with that 1% in a way.
For me, that's what I use the War Room for. I don't think any network in the world would exist where men sit around and just complain about women and try and treat women as second-class citizens. I mean, surely it would be
not complaining about them.
I wouldn't want to take part in
It's more like there's one of the running themes is to get the woman to tattoo your name on herself.
That's clearly not true. What you've read is fake, and it's made up by stupid journalists.
There's 12,000 pages of it.
There's 12,000 pages. Well, it doesn't matter. It's very easy to find some chat logs and enter little lines into it. I don't think that.
It's also very easy to say, yeah, a bit of it was done.
Well, here's the thing. If 4,000 people are talking across hundreds of different rooms 24 hours a day, right now, since the beginning of our interview, probably 300, 400, 500 messages have been sent inside of the War Room. I can't tell you exactly what everyone has said over the last 4 years and what they haven't said. I can't. What I'm saying is, in my experience inside of the War Room, that is absolutely not what the War Room stands for. That is absolutely not what the War Room teaches, preaches, what anyone I know from the War Room believes. All the people I know from the War Room are happily married men, guys with families, guys with kids, successful businessmen, people who run construction companies, real, honest, great people, and that does not represent us. So I think it's fake.
You guys have preached a message of masculinity, and I'm all in favour of masculinity.
Great.
Many other people have categorised it as toxic masculinity because of the misogyny and so on. Do you feel that maybe you have collectively gone too far in the misogyny, and that has been, again, one of the reasons you find yourself in the problems you're in?
Well, again, when I say first,
the kind of alpha male
what have I
rhetoric.
Said? What have I said that's misogynistic?
No, I'm just asking you generally whether you feel that's part of the problem.
I don't think that's part of the problem. I don't think it is a problem at all. I think that when somebody has been speaking on the internet for a decade, you have to understand that, first of all, lots and lots of content is produced, and it's very easy to cherry pick and to take things out of context.
Sure.
And number two, the man speaking on the internet 10 years ago is not the man sitting and being interviewed by you today.
That's the thing. These lot made so much content, like when they were like 20, 21, they're in their mid-30s now. And because they've gone so famous and viral, all that stuff from old YouTube is coming back to haunt them in a way. So, some of it.
The thing is, when you're young, you change as a person.
Yeah.
Look at KSI, his first ever
If
videos.
we went back to what KSI done when he was like 17, he used to do mad shit, and you can't judge him now on that. Like, he was a kid.
Look how successful he is now.
He was a kid back then. And the same with these guys. You can't judge them based on something they recorded 15 years ago. Like, it's mad.
You know, who I was when I was 25, I fancied myself a bit of a dating coach, used to give people advice on how to meet women, how to pick. That's not how I live now. I'm 35, I'm not 25. You at 25, I'm sure, were very vastly different than you are today. So You know,
Oh,
I
gosh,
don't
don't wanna
think
see
there's a
Piers'
problem with
chats
anything I've said, because
at
I've
25.
never advocated for anything illegal. I've
Darling, would you like a little spank?
You're right there, baby doll.
You're right, baby doll. You want a little spank today?
Some pleasure spank.
never advocated for any crime. I do not advocate for drugs. I do not advocate for violence. I do not advocate for any of these things. So if Andrew said that women can't drive as well as men once, like, it's very easy to jump on that and say this man is the world's biggest misogynist because he said X. And I think it's really stupid.
He said a lot worse things than that. I do think
that was the original reason he went viral.
I do think he said a lot of blatantly misogynist things. I don't think he's even really aware. I don't think he even thinks they are misogynist.
Well, that depends on your worldview, and it actually depends on the worldview of where you live. Because if you were to walk around the country of Romania, the great country of Romania, and you were to talk to people,
Are women better drivers than men? Go on. Don't wuss out. Yes or no?
Well, when I'm driving, the people that really annoy me are the women drivers.
There we go, guys. We got a real one here.
Yeah.
and say some of the misogynistic things you've heard Andrew, me, anyone else in the world say in England that are considered misogyny, the men and the women here would be like, yeah. Huh? What? Misogynistic? What's like?
Yeah, that's not a very good defense.
Well, no, it's not.
The fact that other countries,
I'm not trying to defend myself.
other countries tolerate it.
No, I'm not trying to
excuse.
defend myself. But the man should go out and work, and the woman should stay home and take care of the family. This is my point. So in England, that's for some reason makes people's heads explode when I say that's how I want to live. I'm happy. I'm not saying
You're perfectly entitled to live how you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you guys have made millions and millions of pounds out of preaching that message, and the criticism is that young, impressionable teenage boys in particular have been led to believe by you guys that the only way to succeed in life is with that dynamic.
No.
Where the man's in charge, he's the hunter, he's the provider, the woman stays at home, she makes herself look good, and her only whole modus operandi each day, a whole raison d'etre, is to get up and make a man feel good.
I'm going to correct you because I think you're completely wrong about what me and Andrew preach. What me and Andrew preach is a message of masculine excellence. And when you are an excellent man, when you are strong, smart, sharp, all of the things that we tell young men to be, discipline, then you can find a wife and a woman and a life and a dynamic, 4 wives if you like, and live exactly how you want.
Oh, sure.
I don't tell, yeah,
No
and you can have a wife who's more successful than you.
You
can date a judge or a lawyer or a
You do both
doctor.
basically believe women should stay at home and not go to work.
No, I believe that I want my woman at home with my family,
Sure.
and that's the way I wish to live.
That's
However,
also what you preach.
but
That's also what you preach in your university, right? I mean, you think.
I don't preach anything inside of any university.
Right. Well, okay.
No, the university. Sorry, if you're talking about the real world, the online educational platform, which has been attacked and slandered.
Nice plug in straight on Piers Morgan's show.
Yeah.
More than me. Keep in mind, I don't own it. It's been slandered and attacked and said that it teaches people how to abuse women. What kind of app would teach people how to abuse women? It's insane. It teaches web design, e-commerce, copywriting, cryptocurrency trading, basic methods of wealth creation, and that's it. It actually has nothing to do with teaching anyone anything about women,
Well,
to the point that women are members.
The war.
Loads of members.
Oh,
What about the war
women
room?
are members. I
See,
can join.
you could join.
Yes.
And maybe you could work your way up for the war room.
Yeah.
Well, the war room doesn't have female members, no. I can explain why that is if you care, but I don't think it's that
Why
interesting of a
doesn't it?
reason.
I want to know.
Well, I would say that I don't have, or my brother, or any of the men in the war room don't have any business telling women how to be women. You see, we're not misogynists. If we were to get women into a group and say, hey, women, you need to be like this, you need to be like that, no.
Andrew tells women how they should.
That's a good point, because if they're bunch of guys and they're telling each other how you should be in the war room, like how to get better at this and how to be the best man, I guess, the only person that could tell someone how to be the best man is really another male perspective that's very up there, shall we say. But they can't get a woman to join, because then that, I guess, can be looked at misogyny, because imagine giving that information to a woman, that's controlling to a woman. Women live one way. Like he said, I'm not in a place to tell a woman how she needs to be, which is opposite what Piers is trying to stick on them. Hence why there's no woman in the war room, which makes sense. But there's women in the real world, which is the other app, which has lots of like wealth creation methods from the sounds of it. It's pretty cool. I think it makes sense to me. I get it as a guy.
Be all the time, including a
Well,
lengthy tweet
Andrew
I read
tweets.
to him. It was only last week, and that's my point.
Andrew
I read that whole tweet for a reason.
Yes.
Is that it went on and on and on, and honestly, it was just blatantly misogynist.
Yeah, but people can take that or leave it. This is Twitter. That's a public
But it
forum.
doesn't make it not misogyny.
Well,
And you guys,
consider it misogynistic.
and here's where your massive reach and influence becomes problematic to me, because I see on the streets when I walk around in London in particular, the number of kids who come up to me all starry-eyed about the Tate brothers, right? And they're like, top G and blah, 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 blah. But they're being conditioned to think by the constant rhetoric, mainly from Andrew, but I don't think you're particularly that different in your worldview of how women's place in the world should be, that they're led to believe that if a woman wants to go to work, there's something wrong with that. And we're in a very different place now to where we were in the 50s. A lot of women love going to work, love their jobs, they're successful. Often they may be the main breadwinner in the family, right? The whole dynamic has changed. There's no suggestion that there's a repeated pattern of women that go to work, they have unhappy marriages or lives or unhappy children.
No, but I believe society's gotten much worse in the last 30, 40
Damn
years.
right.
Because of women going to work?
No, not because of women going to work, but because of men losing the agency to discipline the children in the household and to be seen as the figurehead. Now, that's my personal opinion, and if you find it misogynistic, that's completely fine. But I will say that on places like Twitter, what I won't do is get any young man personally or speak with young men personally in a personal conversation, say, hey, you need a woman who you can control and can't go to work and stuff. That is absolutely not what we do. I think Ricky Gervais made a very interesting point about putting something on Twitter and people taking it personally like it's written for them. It's not written for them. Andrew can live the way he wants to live. And let me tell you, me and Andrew live in very different ways in regards to the way we see relationships, etc., because we are both very different people. But he can live the way he wants to live because, one, him and his girlfriend are both consenting adults, and that's their prerogative. Two, he's achieved a level of success and masculine excellence where he has the choice of picking which type of women he wants to date. I like different types of women. You've achieved masculine excellence yourself, Piers, and you, I'm sure, have a very happy relationship with whichever woman is in your life.
Yeah, but I do believe masculinity is important. And I don't like the way it's always constantly reframed as toxic.
Great, we agree.
But I do think that the constant stream of misogynist statements, but I'm talking mainly about Andrew, but the constant stream of them, I'm not even sure he's aware of how they come over. That was clear from our interview.
Yeah, well, again, people could take what's put on Twitter and they can either apply it to their lives or not. They could take it personally or not. I don't know how many followers Andrew has on Twitter. Millions and millions of people.
8.2 million.
He's not writing aimed at women.
Tate came back on Twitter, he got unbanned and 8.2 mil, that's a lot.
Or aimed at men, or aimed at anybody.
Well, he is.
He's voicing his own opinions about how he lives his life.
Yeah, but to a massive audience.
Yeah, but regardless if it's a massive audience or not, even if he didn't have a massive audience and he's tweeting those things, just because he has a massive audience doesn't mean he's not allowed to say how he lives.
The thing is, I don't know why Piers is getting so wound up about this. You've got someone like, there's a new artist, I forgot what her name is.
There's so many now.
She dresses Betty Boop or whatever on Halloween. And
Ice Spice.
That's it, Ice Spice.
Okay.
Oh my God, I honestly find her so cringe. No. I'm sorry to say whoever likes her, but I find her so cringe. You got people idolizing this girl. You got people idolizing bloody...
Talking about twerking on guys, being a whore,
that's
basically.
Even worse.
Modern day prostitution, which isn't labelled as prostitution,
Andrew
apparently.
Tate and Tristan are saying, we just don't want our women to work. If they want to work, that's fine. Why is Piers...
making it such a big deal?
He should have Ice Spice here. So how do you think... women feel, or young girls feel, watching you wear some tight ass mini skirt, twerking,
talking about dancing on guys for money,
like
basically prostitution. But apparently it's wrong to say that's prostitution, even though it is.
But like Tristan said, because, or was it Andrew Tate? Like Andrew Tate said, because it's a consumer thing, they'll just let them have it.
The consumers are given what the government want the world to look like. They're letting it run, but as soon as it's a resistance to what they're trying to achieve and accomplish with like the way the government's going, they lock it off.
Why don't we have Doja Cat here?
Yeah, put fucking Doja Cat on it. How about that?
How do you think your audience feels seeing you like convert into
who's
the
that
devil?
weirdo? That Sam Smith?
What happened to him?
Is that he done some weird shit where I saw it all my days. Today, I swear to you, I was scrolling through Instagram Reels. Someone done a video on Sam Smith's new post. He had, I think it was like a Teletubby shoe, like one shoe that's just big and then a normal shoe. Then his t-shirt was a kid eating an apple, and then it was blue and white stripes. And then guess what that is? It's from, I think it's a logo or something on there. You know, Epstein's Island. It's famous. Where all these famous, like, ex-presidents and went and they've molested kids in the island.
Oh,
you know about that, man.
Yeah, I know
Surprised
about it. Yeah.
So it was a logo there or something, and their shirt's got a kid eating an apple, and it's the exact same stripes, and they put it next to each other, and it's the exact logo of the Espion Island, which is like where the paedophiles were banging like.
Why
kids.
don't we have Sam Smith here?
Madness.
He's got the wrong people on his show.
That's what I'm saying. But
people that are speaking the truth, and you're going
help,
against them.
And trying to be positive,
trying to be positive about the world, but he's letting these Satan worshippers
go free, mate.
My God,
that's how you know the world's coming to an end.
To a massive audience.
And then you guys do your YouTube stuff, and that has a massive audience.
We're on Rumble, not YouTube.
Right, I'm sorry, you're banned from YouTube,
banned.
right? You're on Rumble, you're banned from some platforms, you're allowed back on Twitter and so on.
Indeed.
Look, I just think it's, for me, when I look at all the rhetoric, the stuff that I find most problematic, to use the phrase of the buzz phrase of our era,
absolutely,
is simply where I feel like if it strays into that misogyny, I think you let yourselves down. That you have a good message in many ways. A lot of the stuff, notwithstanding the serious charges you're facing, and we'll have to see how that all plays out. And maybe you both are very different people to the ones you're claiming to be. We'll find out, right? But in terms of your general rhetoric, I find that constant running underpinning theme of misogyny and about where a woman's place should be, that is the problem in terms of the influence on young men. They shouldn't all be walking around thinking that a woman's place is only in the home serving their men. And that somehow their only thought process each day, women, should be, how do I please my man, not can I get a fulfilling job or any of those things? But no, you stay at home, self-improvement, make yourself look good, obey his instructions, all that kind of stuff.
But Andrew talking about the way that he wants his relationships to work.
He's entitled.
He's
entitled to what it. No,
advocating and forcing for the whole world to see things his way.
Yeah, but that's the delusion because.
You
can say he only wants that for himself, right? And
by
the way, he's allowed any relationship he wants. But when you pretend that when he says those things, they're not amplified to literally tens of millions of impressionable young men.
But here's why you're wrong.
Then you know that's not true.
Well, here's why you're wrong, because you assume that Andrew Tate, for some reason in this conversation, is the only influencer in the world and the only people people listen to, because he's not. At all.
That's what I said.
Internet.
But I gotta tell you, he's one of the most influential.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is, and that's great.
And that's the part of his influence that I think is a potentially malevolent.
Great, and it's wonderful and good, and you don't have to like it. But let me tell you, every force has an equal and opposite force somewhere else. So on X, Elon has now legalized free speech on that platform. So there are different opinions on every single. On every single aspect of life, including how you want to date women, what kind of music you should listen to, what kind of cars are good, what kind of whatever it is. So for every Andrew Tate out there, there's some feminist OnlyFans model who lives in Florida who makes rap music who's saying that men are nothing.
Ice Spice, who we just spoke about.
So the people who are listening to Andrew Tate aren't listening to Andrew Tate. They're listening to the internet as a whole. And I believe Andrew's message is one, overwhelmingly positive, absolutely overwhelmingly positive, and I believe he's a very important mark on that spectrum of opinions that exist out there, because when you delete Andrew Tate, the mean average of people will drift down this toilet of degeneracy and become less like Andrew Tate. He's a professional athlete with a completely clean criminal record, by the way, who's massively financially successful, who's kind, who's generous. He runs his own charity. He's the best brother. He's the best father. He's the best uncle. He's an absolutely wonderful man, and I would love to see more men become like him. So I like his opinions, and I like the fact that he's out there.
Yes, brother.
Yes.
Go on.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.